And when more people come, we'll just welcome them in and greet them. Yeah. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.
Yes.
We wanted to start this off because Catherine and I did a practice run of this entire presentation yesterday. And it lasted easily for an hour and a half. And that was before we even started talking about the book and taking questions. So we wanted to start it off. This has been such a huge journey. We've literally been driving around 22 countries over the past 4.5, going on 5 years. 5 years in January. And we have so many epic stories to tell.
Yeah.
We have so much advice and knowledge to give. But this is really for you guys. This is very much like we wrote this book. We're hosting this presentation not for ourselves. We're not doing this journey, which we call Unite the World Firsthand. It's not just for Catherine and I. It's for the world. It's for the people who want to travel. It's for the people who want to expand their awareness, experience adventure safely, relatively safely. And so what we want to do is cater this presentation for you guys. So we just want to take a quick moment, just introduce yourselves or say your name and like why you came or what you're interested in. Like if you were running the show and you were directing us, what would you want to hear about? And it can be about anything, a specific country, how do you do this, what happens when that happens, just so we can plug into our minds as we go through our story and we'll be able to address those things as we're doing it in case we end up going longer than expected, because it could very well happen that way. So if you don't mind, please.
Yes. My name is Mohammed. I'm from here, local Oman. My experience with traveling, I usually travel solo. I used to study abroad. So I went to a couple of countries in Central and South America. Just when you're explaining your trips, I just wondering how you are, before you go, the misconception about the country or other country, how you adjust to it, and what's after all this experience, what you learn from all that experience.
I'm writing this down so that we can answer this fully as we tell the story.
We're live streaming right now too, and people have already asked us questions that they want us to address.
Yeah.
And that is semi-related to one of them, so that's perfect.
And one of the things is, as you're traveling, what is something, I say, scary experience or bad experience you faced, but after a while or after you get knowledge about it, because you misunderstand the culture of it, or the culture itself, the people of that country or that society or that environment you want to interact with.
Like a culture shock moment where it was severe and we thought maybe we were in trouble or something like that?
Yes, you thought it's a scary experience, but it's scary because you didn't understand their culture or what they're...
Yeah.
Specifically about that, like, because we've had some scary experiences, but it was not necessarily related to the culture. It was more just like, okay, we'll get into this.
Yeah, that's a really interesting.
It was a scary experience for you, but later on, when you realize the culture or the environment, it should be normalized because you don't know the information about the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, for example, you see people in other country with guns, police outside with the high guns, but this is normal for the people there.
Right.
Shouldn't be scared or something.
Yeah.
Because until you know that, you'll be normalized. And one thing is I want to hear your opinion about your experience as you travel all these communities, all different culture from South to Africa to Middle East now currently. What's the most interesting observation about people, community you find all that?
Okay, yeah, I already have something in mind right now that's hanging up, so let me write that one too.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. That's
most interesting observation, right?
Yeah.
As individual, travel.
You know, because it's funny, it used to happen more. Like before I did this journey, I traveled for 10 years nonstop. I got hooked. I was studying at university. I got the opportunity to study abroad in China for 1 semester. And I had never been out of the United States, and it just blew me away. And I just loved the Chinese culture, and they were very inviting and engaging with me. And I got hooked for 10 years, but I did the typical thing where you save the money, and then you travel, and then you spend it, and then you come back, save the money, and so on. And eventually, I had a lot of those experiences for the first decade. On this journey, combination of my knowledge and experience combined with Catherine, who's completely fresh, actually. She'd never been out of the United States before this journey around the world.
I had never traveled hardly in the United States before this journey, so...
This magical kind of knowledge
It's a lot for me.
And awareness combined with this enthusiasm, it doesn't happen. You don't necessarily attract it as much because you know how to behave or you know how to flow with it. But we will get to that. We're not going to get carried away.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. How
Thank
are
you for just coming in.
Yeah. Let's go to yourself.
Hamid Shadi with you. I just today I came only to listen to your story because I get interested with the little one. How do you travel with her?
Yeah.
And what type of experience you're facing in general.
Sure.
So that's all. I want to hear your story more.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what most people are interested in. A combination of scary experiences, challenges, and how are you doing it with the baby? That's really the most popular. That and what's your favorite experience or favorite country?
Yeah.
And plus, what's your favorite food that you in each country?
Oh man.
Top
Okay,
three,
okay.
maybe top three, top two, top three.
Top two.
Favorite foods?
Yeah, that you.
Oh,
Okay.
That's tough. That's as hard or harder than picking favorite countries.
Yeah.
Because, well, anyways, yeah, okay, we'll get to that. And I'll start dreaming.
Favorite foods.
Some are already coming up for me.
It's so interesting hearing what people usually ask us on this journey, and then like what I would ask myself, and the questions that I come up with. Like, it's kind of a side thought.
And
but
people
I'm
who
thinking about
are
this.
watching the live stream also post your questions, and we will get to them towards the end of the presentation.
Exactly, or we'll get to them in the comment section or take it to a private chat. Your questions will be answered too. We actually have some questions from one of our followers on Facebook right now, and I'm going to read these too just so you guys know also what we're going to be covering in the answers. We had a friend say, when you are preparing to move from one country to another, how do you prepare yourself to understand the local traditions and societal norms and customs? Then she said, how do you ensure Prana's safety during our performances? Because we do big shows. And as outsiders, are you guys expected to conform with local culture?
That's kind of connected with yours. Do other people, people that we're not used to, and we're foreigners with them, do they expect us to comply with them? Do we expect them to comply with us? What happens in that sort of like potential clashing situation?
And how we flow with it. I think that's a big thing.
So let's keep going though. With you.
Yeah. Thanks to Pepsi. We already met.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for like a few minutes actually.
Welcome.
No big questions, but going off what he said and going off what Mr. Muhammad said as well. And this is another extreme. What is the worst food experience?
The worst food experience?
Oh my gosh.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
I remember, yeah.
Oh my god.
I know what you're
No.
gonna say.
We'll get to that. Oh, I feel like I'm turning red. Oh my god, it was horrible.
That's great, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, worst food experience. Is that it?
That's it.
Are you serious? You're gonna make me cry.
You guys are gonna find though that we are such what you might call positive thinkers. We call it we're trained in harmonizing our perceptions. That's a big part of what you would learn in this book, or if you were to take private trainings from us. So we don't really have worse foods or worse situations. We have the ones that we learn from, and we have hilarious type situations. No bad foods though. Like
No, we haven't had bad foods, but I ate something in Mexico at that park, remember? When we were sleeping out in our truck outside of that park, and I just...
Anyways, yeah, we'll move on to that.
I do have a second question now. Now that you mentioned Mexico, how good is your Spanish?
Oh my
Muy
God.
bien.
Perfect.
Sí, yo hablo español muy bien.
After 3 years, you get.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Eu falo pouco de português because we were in Brazil,
Rio.
so it's very similar to Spanish, but I was actually really surprised how different it is from Spanish too.
Now it's Arabic.
Yeah. Now it's Arabic.
Yeah.
أنا أتعلم عربي.
Sure.
شوية.
And yourself back there, what's your name?
My name is Al-Walid.
Al-Walid?
Al-Walid.
Al-Walid.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I'm Jesse. This is Catherine and our daughter Prana. We're just asking, we're custom catering this program for who's attending. So we want to know maybe a little bit about you, your experience with traveling and why you came here, what you're most interested in, what can we present to you, because we have literally so many stories, we're not going to fit them in all today.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm Aloid, I'm Kaini. I'm from here, Muscat. I just came here to listen to your story and how you afford traveling around the world.
How we afford it. That is a top
That's the most
question.
important
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
And that is one of the questions that led me to writing this book. Because so many people ask, did you win the lottery? Which is in America, there's the lottery, you buy tickets and then where there's like one winner and you get millions of dollars.
It's a big legendary thing. It's like all of a sudden you can go from rags to riches, they say. And Catherine and I kind of like made that happen. But we made that happen with almost no money. And we'll tell you about that, how we've been thriving, having much less money than you might expect.
Yeah, and we're teachers too, so we always want to kind of help people
That being said,
live that.
We work our asses off. We really work hard. But we love what we do too. So we'll talk about that for sure. And yourself.
Fahad Lamri, and the only time that the two times that I traveled outside the country were France and UK.
Thanks,
Okay.
okay.
And they were amazing. And for France, I stayed like for 2 months, and it was like one of the best experiences. I loved it so much. And my question is same as Hamad, raising a kid.
Raising a kid. That is a big aspect of this.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely highlight that in this.
Yeah, that would be a big
Story.
highlight because Prana is honestly the celebrity here. It's funny because Catherine and I, we're working very hard to generate more money, more numbers, more attention, more fame, more fortune. Of course, that's part of the dream. You know, it's not that we're attached to it so much because it's all about living the journey, not focusing on the destination. You got to live rich is more important than being rich because money, possession, it only represents riches.
Yeah.
When we're actually talking about being rich, it's a feeling. You feel rich. Money can provide that for a time. Possession can have that for a time. Status can have that for a time. But it's temporary. It's like medicine. It helps you to feel rich, but it doesn't enable it to become more or less permanent. Catherine and I live feeling rich, but we had to work very hard at it and harmonize our perceptions over and over and over and over. So thank you, and please, once again, live streamers, add your questions. We'll get to them. We'll check them here in a moment.
In a moment, yeah.
Let's go into the introduction now.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to introduce ourselves. We're actually going to do a warm-up with you guys. So we're going to give you a free example of what we're talking about when we mean harmonize your thoughts or harmonize your perception. Then we're going to go through the journey as quickly as we can, if it's even possible. Go through a few of what you guys are talking about, where those certain things happened.
You can kind of see it here.
Our perception of not every country that we went to, because there's so much that goes into that. Because you guys have to recognize within every country, there are many different communities and cultures. Within each one of those communities and cultures, there's many different individuals. And that's who Catherine and I invest in, the individuals. And each individual is different. There's commonalities between us, and you will notice there's commonalities between cultures. And as soon as people start really traveling the world, they're going to start noticing this. They're going to say, oh, every single culture, whether it's mine, in my home country, in my hometown, or somewhere way across the end of the world, are relative. Maybe they're not the same, but they're related, they're relative to one another. And you'll find different people that remind you of different people from around the world. They're like, oh, you remind me of my friend from here or there. It's like you guys are like brothers, but you're totally from different places, weren't raised with similar means or anything like that. So Catherine and I are going to explain a little bit about ourselves, a little bit about our perceptions, and then we will move it into the book that we wrote, that we're releasing today, literally just a few hours ago. It's now live online. You can order this book. It's 118 pages. Basically, everything that we were able to develop along this journey of how we're able to actually do this. Because again, to your question of how do you afford this, it's a lot of things. It's not just making money or having money. We've literally run out of money 6 or 7 times on this journey. And I say 6 or 7 times because I don't remember how many times. We've run completely out of money.
Yeah. And a lot of people are afraid of this, and so
it is a great fear.
They don't
that we
start,
have.
but a lot of people don't start living their dream because they're afraid of this.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the biggest mistakes that people can make is not taking that first step because of fear. When we've gone through it and time again run out of money, and whatever it is that's beyond us, you can call it Allah, God, something that's beyond us that is a big, powerful force.
Sometimes
something comes and we continue to live. It's not like we're just gonna die out there because we ran out of money. Something will happen, and alhamdulillah, it's like that, and it's
Sometimes
let go and let God. They say in English, let go and let God, and you really can only experience that if you step into the unknown and embrace your fear.
Yep.
If you're constantly living in your comfort zone because you're afraid of what might happen if these things happen, then you're never gonna really have that capacity to develop your faith.
Yeah.
Your faith in that creator that's beyond
Real-time street smart faith. There's only so much you can study about faith and about creator and what is beyond yourself. But until you actually put it into real life experiences, raw real experiences that you can't get out of, only then does the real education happen.
Yeah.
When you go into the depths of the fears, it's you might know something. It's the same as what we figured out through college. It's like you study in college and you have all this book smart, but then you go into the real world and the actual workplace, and you have no experience, and people want you to have experience. They want you to have street smarts. So this journey was about developing an adaptive street smarts, and it still is. It's a real-time study in modern day anthropology. We're literally studying and experiencing the humans of the world through ourselves.
We had a new person just come in and he walked out. I want to make sure we get his name and what he'd like to hear too.
Yeah, okay. Hey, come on back.
He's on the phone. I think he walked out on the phone. It's okay. So, who are you?
Yeah. So my name is Jesse Hart, and I was born and raised in Oregon in the Northwest United States. Like a lot of Americans, I never really explored the outside world. America is very much like a bubble, where it's all about what's inside of that bubble and not so much about what's outside of it. Not that my family was like that. We weren't like flag-waving Americans, you're kind of stereotypical America, very patriotic. But it was just we didn't have a lot of money nor a lot of interest in what was happening. We would go on big road trips, but that was about it. And like I said, I got the opportunity to travel to study abroad in China in 2007 when I was 21. And I almost didn't do it because it was expensive, the program was pretty expensive. I had some money, and I'm mostly at that time thinking about, no, I should buy this on stuff that I want. I should buy I should buy this item. Who needs to travel and have that sort of experience when I can have this thing, But one of my professors, someone that I really respected, he said, "Are you thinking about going like this?" And I was kind of almost on the fringe of not. And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm thinking about it." And he was like, "You should go." He's like, "You should do it." And there was something just subtly strong about his energy that gave me that little push that I needed to do it. And I had the absolute best time ever. From that point, I kind of lived to travel because it was just, I played soccer or football my whole life. Football was my life. Until I had a big snowboarding accident, really messed up my knee, wasn't really able to play it the same way anymore. I still coached it, I still refereed, I trained referees, I played as much as I could, but then I tore it again. So that wasn't looking like it was going to be for me. But then travel came along, literally shortly after that happened, and all of my energy that once went to football went into traveling.
But it was not the kind of traveling that we're doing. It was the kind buy a plane ticket that goes there and back, experience a little bit and come back, and then you have to make money again.
At first, me and my best friend from college, what we wanted to do at one time is see how far we could go on how little. So we had a little Geo Metro, little tiny 2-door, 3-cylinder engine car. Got great fuel economy, great gas mileage. And couch surfing was just introduced to me. This was back in 2008. And we went all around Mexico, 10,000 miles, like 17,000 kilometers, all around Mexico and back for the equivalent of $500 per person, total, for the whole journey. And we showed ourselves that you can live rich, you can experience the world, you can have a great time for next to nothing. It was an entire month of traveling, mind you, for $500.
Mexico, by the way, is one of those places where you can live on like 5 Omani real, and that will last you the whole week. And that's
And
like,
you'll eat like a king.
yeah, you eat like really good on 5 real.
Really great food.
Surprise!
I have a question.
Yeah.
What can you buy for $1?
For
What?
$1?
$1.
For
In
one
Mexico?
In Mexico. Well,
A kilogram of anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
And it's abundant there. Like they have the rambutan fruits. They have.
I remember they had oyster mushrooms, really quality oyster mushrooms, entire kilogram for basically the equivalent of $1.
And oyster
entire
mushrooms.
kilogram of cherries or entire kilogram.
And how much would that
of,
be here? Like
Oh,
3 real or something like that.
yeah, like
3
4 to
real.
5, 6 times that amount.
In Mexico, it's like $1, which is like
Any amount of sandwiches that you want, any amount of tacos, any amount of basically anything that would completely fill your stomach that you want for $1. Yeah.
yeah. And $1 is like
I'm trying to remember.
not 0.5 real, but like 0.4 or something like 0.4 something real.
I'm trying to remember what the pesos were. How much was
20
it
something.
pesos?
$1 was like 20 something
20 pesos,
It was like
yeah.
23 pesos or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
If I can remember correctly, we've been through 22 countries, so we've gone through many currency exchanges, and we've had to convert.
So, long story short, I found as many ways as I could to make my dollar last as far as it could, so that I could keep traveling and not have to work. But eventually, I got to the point where I was like, I need to figure out how to do this indefinitely. I want to travel and I want to go into the world, and I don't want to stay there for just a few weeks or even a month or two. I want to be able to immerse myself into the community, into the culture for as long as I want, and not have to worry about going back to reality, going back to home country, going back to my job.
Reality, as
Yeah.
in like work
Um,
a lot.
And I also had some spiritual experiences that showed me I was supposed to do something like this, supposed to learn about the world and adapt myself as being a world citizen, not just belong to being an American, not just belong to being an Oregonian and all the things I
I wanted
associate.
to say hi to the
Yeah,
person.
welcome.
We've said hi to everyone. I'm Catherine, and this is Jessie.
What's your name? Haitham, right.
Haitham.
And we asked around really quickly what your interest was in coming here today. If you had a question or anything that we can plug into our presentation.
I don't know.
I'm going to put you on the spot, sorry. Think about it for a moment and we'll come back to you. And what's your name? Zahara.
I love that name.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We wanted to know the same from you. Is there something pressing on your mind, some question you'd like to ask us? Because our presentation is so big that we can't fit it all in, so we want to customize
Well, I
it.
was interested in your story, the way how you start, where this idea came.
Yeah.
Okay, we're perfect.
We're getting
just
into
getting
that
into
right
that
now. That's like the beginning. So.
Yeah. So I had the dream of going around the world and just pushing myself to do it, and just seeing if I could do it. This is before I even met Catherine. This is back in 2015, more or less. And part of that dream, before I had the dream of going around the world, I had a vision come to me of building a 3-story pyramid, a pyramid-like building that was like a performance hall, a school, a healing facility, a training center, and even a garden around it. And I have a very active imagination. I'm very fortunate to be able to be very good at daydreaming, seeing images in my mind. But this wasn't like that. This was just like all of a sudden, I'm with a friend walking across the footbridge over the Rogue River, which is the river that runs through the city that we came from. And it was all of a sudden, boom, there in full detail. And I knew that I was involved in building this. And I was just like, how? And I was just getting in, I wasn't raised religiously or spiritually, but I was having many spiritual experiences around this time. And so I'm meditating and praying and asking about this and how is this ever going to happen? How is this school, because it's supposed to be free to the community. It's supposed to bring the world together.
How are you going to build
How am I
it?
ever going to do this?
How are you going to keep it
And
open?
then the idea of going around the world nonstop on my own before I met Catherine came to my mind. I was completely drawn in by it. So in 2016, the very end of 2016, I bought a dual sport motorcycle. A motorcycle that can go on or off-road. It was a 2011 KLR, Kawasaki KLR. And in 2017, I was ready to go. I just took off. I just went south and I got all the way into Mexico before I had some really challenging experiences, ran out of money, and had to return home after maybe 2 months of traveling. But it wasn't a failed attempt. It just was a lesson in learning how to do this.
How is he gonna afford to keep traveling and make money while you're going? This is kind of going into what you were asking. Because how do you afford this kind of lifestyle? Because it's like a constant vacation, right? A lot of people think you have to stay in accommodation, transportation, all of these things cost money. How do you do that? And that's a huge thing. Like, we have a whole section on that in the book that we wrote.
Exactly.
On how to budget smart as a traveler. And in a way, you kind of have to avoid doing things that typical travelers and tourists do.
Right.
So avoid at all costs paying for accommodation if you can do
Or-
some kind of
Or just going to a
exchange with
party
people.
to party.
Yeah, anything like
that's
that.
not coming back to you. Like, you're just paying somebody else, and none of it's actually coming back to you, except for the enjoyable time, right? But it's not an asset, right?
Yeah.
So
That's not to say that we haven't paid for accommodation on this trip. There have been plenty of times,
Yeah.
including especially actually here in Oman. We've,
Yeah.
for the first time in 5 years, we paid for an apartment for a whole month in
For
Salalah.
2 months. 2 months.
And then here in Muscat, we paid for an
For another
apartment
one, for a month.
because work has been so good lately that it's just made sense for us to book a place for a certain amount of time and focus on everything else. It just makes sense. But in the beginning of our travels, for the first 4 years, we didn't have the money to pay for accommodation. Even in Mexico, where things are cheap. So we had to find other ways of getting, before Prana, getting showers in hostels and doing some kind of exchange for marketing and content creation as growing influencers with like 1,000 followers, finding a way to create value in other people's life and receive the value that we need, like a shower or a place to stay or a meal, and just kind of have an exchange of services that feels good on both ends.
Yeah.
The more you can do things like that, the farther you'll get in this whole world, because it's not just about money, it's about the energy of the wealth, not the actual money.
People around the world really value connection. Like, that's actually a surprisingly huge thing that I don't think that all human beings really know about. Because a lot of people get used to their own lifestyle and the people that they hang out with and their families and their jobs. And a lot of people, they don't branch very far away from that. But what we don't realize is a lot of people, whether that happens to them or not, are still very welcoming of new energies, new perspectives. We all enjoy diversity in our lives, especially when it comes to us in our home court, because we have our comfort zone around us still, but then we have this added stimulus. When that added stimulus comes, when a traveler comes, people tend to be very enthusiastic, kind, and generous with that. So, not that we do that, and not that you can depend upon it, but Catherine and I would not have been able to do this journey without the kindness and generosity of complete strangers, over and over and over again. I mean, dozens and dozens of people, if not hundreds at this point. We don't like that. We don't want to necessarily rely on other people's charity. But a lot of people don't see it as charity. They like to give. People like to assist, especially when you're doing something, when you're living your dream. People come out of the woodwork to help you. It's really absolutely incredible. But Catherine and I have wanted to not be just those types of people. We want to be the types of people that also can invest in other people's dreams too. Not just have people invest in ours.
This is a huge reason why we don't live in your typical, stereotypical van. Like, you might have heard the term van life, #van life. And there's these vans, they're fully set up. Everything that you could need to live
luxurious
in the van is in the van. And the people usually who live in a van and do the whole van life thing, they find a place to camp and they see the world, but they kind of are like hermits. They keep to themselves and they don't connect with the real people and do business and do parties and other things with the cultures and communities of the world.
It's kinda
because
like-
they're in their little bubble of this car. So
They take what they were doing already and they just put it into the van.
into the van, yeah.
And then it's the same thing,
Yeah.
and they just go to the places where they're used to and the people that they're familiar with are used to.
So I'm happy
But don't
that we
necessarily
did-
everyone get out, well outside of their comfort zone. Because with us, we knew that the van was there for us. We love our truck. It's definitely our home.
No, it doesn't have a shower.
But it doesn't have a shower, it doesn't have a toilet,
No.
it doesn't have electricity right now either.
So that kind of forces us to get out and connect with people more.
Yeah,
And
we
I'm
have
really
to
grateful
learn
for
to
that.
be resourceful.
Mhm.
And something that you'll learn in this book too, and that we'll encourage, is that if you want to get good at anything that you don't know how to do, and the reason why this book is so valuable, because it specializes in this thing, is you simply just have to show up to it. You just have to show up to it. When I have people come in for my yoga classes, I say, you guys are already through the hard part. You showed up. Because if you're willing to show up and not be good at something for a while, you experience what I call a humility cost. You feel kind of uncomfortable and nervous and out of your skin and like, what am I doing here? I look like an idiot. And maybe you do, but you're there, you do your best, you learn a little bit. Then you show up again. Now it's not so bad, but still you're not very good. You learn a little bit more. I really wanted to learn how to dance. Wasn't a very good dancer growing up, but I always admired dancers. And so what I had to do is eventually I just lost my ego and I just showed up to dance class. And for the next 2-3 months, I looked like an idiot, until I didn't care about look like an idiot anymore, had to clear my mind from that, and then I jumped from beginner to intermediate like that. So I just kept showing up, and then I applied that exact same technique to everything else, to the point where when I had this dream about going around the world, not knowing how to do it, I was like, I just need to show up. I just need to go. So I went, and I made it to Mexico, and I had to come back.
Yeah.
But then I showed up again, got stuck again, had to come back. But then I'm thinking back in Oregon, I'm back at home, I'm like, I'm not giving up on this. Third time's gonna be a charm. I'm gonna pretend like I'm still traveling. So I'm riding around my motorcycle, around my hometown, exploring new places, doing new things, just as if I was out in the world, still traveling. Going to new places, meeting new people, and then I met Catherine.
Yeah.
And let's hand it over to her, because we haven't even introduced her yet.
Well, it's okay. I'm actually going to keep mine a lot more brief. I think that everyone, or not everyone, but so many people these days are inspired to see the world. And I think that what I'm hearing even too is that even sacred texts like the Quran, I haven't read the Quran because I'm not fluent yet in reading Arabic, but I've heard that in the Quran, Allah says that to know the world is like to know God. To understand like more of the world and to travel is to be closer to that essence.
There's
And-
even a guy who talked to us about that, and he compared us to a character that's in the Quran. I can't remember the name, but he was like, it sounds just like that.
I hear the
character.
fireworks right now too. It's really cool. So I've been inspired to travel since I was a little kid, and I actually have family that live in Abu Dhabi, and they would come to like my family Christmas or family things that would happen in the United States. So I would have an uncle who would bring a hookah, and I'm like, what's that smell? I'm like 10 years old. And it was just so cool and unique. And my aunt would bring the henna, and she would do henna on all of the girls' hands. And I'm like, I'm not as young as her. I was probably like 10 years old, 8 years old, kind of growing up. When is my Aunt Monique coming? When are my cousins Rashid and Muhammad gonna come and hang out with us? I have a cousin named Rashid and another named Muhammad, and I have an uncle who's Nubian. He's from Sudan, but he lives in the UAE working for one of the sheikh. And it's really cool. I don't know if we're gonna connect there. I haven't heard from my family in a long time because they live a very different kind of lifestyle, different kind of perspective on the world. And I think a lot of it is based on what you hear from social media, what you hear from the news, which is a lot of negativity. And what we're doing on this trip is showing that the world is a lot bigger than that. And it's less about what is happening in the country, so says CNN News or whatever, so says whatever. It's more about what you bring to the country that you experience from that country. So I've been to Mexico, but next time I go to Mexico, it might be completely different because I'm just holding a different energy and I've had different experiences. I might be visiting different places. I might have had a horrible night's sleep and now I have a horrible day. Things like that start to ripple out into everything. And so this is something that I recognized early on, is this reflect, like a mirror, how things are reflective of what you're experiencing internally. If you wake up and you hit your knee and you're like, ow, this is gonna be a horrible day. And then you go out and there's traffic and then we call it manifesting, where our energy and our thoughts propel us into the next situation. And we start to like snowball effect where like things get worse and worse and worse and then it's just a horrible day. But
Look, it's literally manifesting
it's literally
in real
manifesting
time.
right now. No, don't say that.
No, this is a perfect segue into the warm-up.
It is, I understand. I'm blessing it. I don't want something horrible to
No,
happen.
let it
No.
I'm just using
Bless
it for the contrast.
Bless it. But so when I realized this reflectivity of my inner world and my outer experience, I was like, okay, so if I'm going to explore the outer world, as I start to like go to different places in like my hometown area, I feel differently on the inside. When I go on a hike, when I go on a long drive, when I take my physical body somewhere I've never been before, something happens inside of me that feels different. And I started to think, wow, it must be the opposite too. So if as I travel, so too do I become a better person. To become a better person is also to travel. So if these things are working together in harmony, it just told me that I need to explore the world so that I can get to know myself better and evolve more as a person. And this is kind of the segue of traveling outside of yourself is completely relative to traveling inside. And what I mean by that is getting better at breathing, getting better at posture, and understanding more about your subtle energies, like your thoughts and how they carry with you, and
how to move your thoughts around, slow and speed them up, keep your mind focused, how to choose your emotional state, for example. You know, a lot of these things we don't realize are actually optional as human beings, let alone how is that done?
Well, breathing is not optional, but it is also manual. Like but
even how much it actually influences.
Yeah.
So what we want to do right now is, just for a moment, please don't change anything right now. Just notice, how have you been thinking and feeling up until this point in the program? How are you thinking and feeling today, leading up to coming here, arriving here, coming in here? Just consider it yourself. Yeah. Through this presentation up to this point, just kind of reflect back, noticing all the way up to how are you thinking and feeling right now. Just take a moment. So I want you to notice also, without changing it, how's your posture right now? How are you holding yourself? For most people, that's pretty good. Most people don't practice posture, right? We forget to. And then, most importantly, also, without changing it, how are you breathing right now? How's your breath?
How are you breathing?
Just notice the posture, no judgment. This is simply for contrast, because we're going to teach you guys here in a moment. Natural posture, natural breath. I'm not saying mine's been perfect even, and I've been training in it for years. So I'm just going to notice that as well. And this is going to help with the overall presentation, and you guys are going to absorb a lot more once we get in this. So now we want to go through a really quick lesson in yoga, because yoga is not just about poses and stretching. It's not about all the things that you see about yoga. Yoga, the word is a Sanskrit word, ancient Sanskrit in India, that means in English union, or to bring together, to yoke. What we're unionizing through yoga is mind, body, and spirit, but spirit's more of an elusive word, so I like to say mind, body, and breath.
And by the way,
mind, body, and
yoga, the way that we teach yoga is non-denominational. It has nothing to do with any religion. Anyone can practice it. It's not going to like pull you one way or another. It's just focusing on breath and posture and just connecting with yourself.
Yeah, taking care of yourself and getting to know yourself from the inside out. It's a meditation.
Yeah.
So if everyone would join us in a moment, sit away from the backrest.
Yeah. Like come up. If you're leaning back, just sit.
Yeah, just sit up. Sit up away from the backrest so you have a little bit of space between your back and the backrest. You can go back to your posture, whatever you want
In a
to
moment,
do.
it's fine.
Yeah.
You can relax.
And what we're going to do is we're going to gently lengthen our spine. So the belly comes in and up, the chest comes up, and the crown comes up. So you're all of a sudden up. And we're going to slowly take a breath in through our nose and out through the mouth. Now I want you to focus. As you breathe in through your nose, I want to make sure you're focusing on your belly, pulling it up, your chest coming up, and your crown coming up. And think about your breath filling through your whole body, pausing for the fullness of your inhale, and then exhaling. And relaxing yourself, keeping the posture upright, but just relaxing yourself from head to foot. So the inhale, your mind's focusing on the lengthening of your spine, the increase of your lungs. And the exhale, your mind's focusing on the relaxing of your body and the squeezing of your lungs. Let as much breath out as possible. It's not just the expansion of your lungs that's important, it's also the squeezing of your lungs. And just do that for a few breaths. Just do your best. You know what your best is. It might be a little uncomfortable. You might feel like you're going to cough or something. But commit to it. I'm telling you, 3 to 9 breaths is all it takes. 3 to 9 big breaths, focusing on your posture. Relax your shoulders down. Let your chin come down a little bit. Then we're just going to bring our hands on our lap. We're going to inhale and bring the chest forward and the chin up. So arch your spine in one direction on the inhale, and then the exhale, bring your chin to your chest and your back behind you. And then again, inhale, just come forwards and up. Exhale, back and down. So now we're breathing, and the body is moving with the rhythm of the breath. Let's just go 2 more like that, 2 of your biggest breaths, and really stretch your spine forwards and up, arching. Exhale, back and down. 1 more. Then we inhale up to center. And we're just going to exhale and twist. So just grab the side of your leg. You can grab the chair behind you if you like, and just twist looking over one shoulder. On your inhale, feel your posture, feel your breath. On your exhale, go a little further as you relax your body.
You should feel pressure, but never pain. If you feel pain, back off.
Yeah.
Back off a little.
It should be a little uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable. And you're just going to hold that stretch, twisting and looking as far over your shoulder as you can for 2 big breaths. Then we're going to inhale, move back to front. Exhale, turn to the other side. We inhale, lift and lengthen the spine. And exhale, twist a little further as you relax. Go as far as you can till it's a bit uncomfortable and hold for 2 breaths. Remember, full breathing, as much breath as you can. Then your next inhale, come back to front. I'll just do 1 quick exhale back over the original side, just even things out. And inhale back to center. Inhaling, come back to center, and then check in. Notice what's changed for you just in a few breaths and stretching your spine. Now hopefully what you've noticed is you're more focused now. Your emotional level is more calm. Your energy's up, but you feel calm. And just from a few stretches. So we don't realize, we forget as human beings, that more important than food and water is breathing. Like you can live without food for a few weeks, you can live without water for a few days, depending. But you can't live without breath for longer than a few minutes. Oxygen, or the life force energy we call chi, prana, essence, we named our daughter after it, that our cells are consuming, every cell in your body needs in order to exist, is found through your breathing. Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's gonna need to go the other way.
Found through the breath. So when we're practicing yoga, we're getting into all the hard to reach cracks and crevices throughout your body. The nervous system, the central nervous channel up and down your spine, needs to move and breathe and be focused upon. Your mind is directing your lungs to breathe, directing more oxygenated blood to all those cracks and crevices. You're literally filling yourself up with greater levels of energy, of life.
Yeah.
So as you continue to explore and travel inwards, traveling outwards, whether it's traveling abroad or traveling to a new job or traveling to a new relationship, become easier and easier and easier because your mind and your emotions are that much more centered, focused, harmonious. This is really how we're able to do this journey. That simple thing. It's just remembering to practice and having the humility to show up to keep practicing. Because you're going to find all sorts of things inside that don't feel good.
In a way.
All sorts of things that are blocked up. And when you feel blocked up and you start releasing those blockages, you start having releases, whether it be physical releases like getting sick, having diarrhea.
It can be acne, it can be anything. Like
mental releases, having a bunch of poor thoughts about yourself, about others, but a lot of poor emotions and stuff like that, stuff we're not used to, and it's very uncomfortable. For the first few weeks to few months of these practices are the worst, because your body's getting this opportunity to start clearing itself out, to make space for something new to come in. What that new stuff is up to you.
hi, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. You fill in with better thoughts, better drink, better food, better activities, and you will start appreciating. You will start getting better. Your life will start getting better. But it starts from that foundation, from you choosing to show up to invest in yourself and figuring out, okay, I'm gonna choose to get healthy. I've got this life. Might as well invest in myself and live it to its fullest. But the first things first, I gotta first take care of myself. And taking care of yourself has to do with making sure taking care of your body, taking care of your breath, and then taking care of your consumption, physical consumption and mental consumption. What thoughts are you consuming?
This, what we're going through, is the fundamental answer to your question, Mohammed, about the scary or dangerous circumstances that you face when you're traveling. But it has less to do with the cultures and things of the ego, things of like the physical and like where you're born in and what your country is like, and more to do with the energy. So what we practice with yoga and qigong being the foundation of our day and being the foundation of everything that we do, what this does is it creates a really well-practiced intuition within both of us. So it's not just one person, but it's a team of people who are really highly trained in intuition. So we can feel when danger and scary circumstances might happen anywhere, anytime, and when we feel that, we can flow around it and avoid it in a way. And this is a big reason why we didn't go through Ethiopia and Sudan, because we could feel that something was not right. If we were to force ourselves or like really like push ourselves in, things were gonna happen in there that were not gonna be good. So we're like, okay, nope, never mind. We're actually not gonna go this way. And we turned around, you see this little
The reason why we're here in Oman is because we couldn't drive through Africa.
We went all the way up to Ethiopia and stayed here for 5 days, then finally listened to our gut feeling and we're like, okay, we're coming back down, now what? And the flow of least resistance was to ship our truck over the ocean again from Kenya to Salalah, Oman. So that's what brought us here, and ultimately, fundamentally, that is the answer to the question. But sure, we'll get into some fun stories about things that happened that were that are fun to hear about, that could have been scary or could have been dangerous, that relate more to cultural things. We'll get into that too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Honestly, the scariest thing was choosing to have the child on this
Getting
trip.
pregnant on this journey, yeah. And that was all because of our own like perceptions of what it would be like to have a kid and what it would be like to have a kid while traveling. And those things just did not line up at all before we had a kid. But it ended up being the greatest blessing, and we'll get into that here soon.
Yeah.
So we met. You want to get into that?
So when Catherine and I met, I told her about this dream and my attempts around the world, and that I was still practicing on going around the world by motorcycle. I told anybody and everyone who would listen to it. And Catherine was immediately drawn into it. Some people were like a little bit interested, some people not interested at all, but once in a while you meet someone who's like, wow, that's really interesting. And she told me her interest in traveling as well, and that she hadn't traveled before. So we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Long story short, we developed a professional relationship, a romantic relationship, and we discussed it, and she decided she wanted to do this thing with me.
This journey.
And I felt like kind of strangely fine about that. There's a part of me that wanted to like know that I was going to do this on my own and do it solo.
He was going to do it on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So no bed. I mean, maybe a tent.
Yeah, I had a tent.
Pitching a tent.
Yeah.
But it would have been a lot different on a motorcycle.
It was tough. But when Catherine decided she wanted to do this too, and I started to contemplate what it'd be like to do it driving and with a camper and like a little home, I was like, yeah, that could be a lot more comfortable, and it would definitely be a lot easier having another person with me. So I felt good about it, and we went for it.
We started shopping around for a vehicle, and we found our vehicle, which is actually perfect, by the way. It gets good fuel economy.
It was an incredible deal.
Yeah.
I sold the motorcycle. Catherine had a horse. She sold her horse.
Mm-hmm.
We put that money together. We bought the truck. Mm-hmm. And the truck wasn't very much. It's like $3,000 US. We're talking like 1,100 real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really
1983 Toyota. They call it a Santana, which is just a Hilux that they made with an extended axle so they could put the RV on the back.
Here's a cultural thing that's really funny, actually. The lady who sold this truck to us sold it because, well, this is what she said, because she wanted to go with her grandchildren, but there wasn't enough space for all of her grandchildren to go with her. In the United States, you need to have like a chair with the official seatbelt if you're going to be driving on the road
and
with
if you have
another
a kid
person.
of a certain size, it has to be a child car seat.
Like a car seat or a booster seat. And our truck only has the driver's seat and the passenger seat, no middle seat or anything.
No, nothing, yeah.
So when we had a baby, we're like, we're gonna have to figure it out. And we're in Ecuador, and everyone's traveling around like with their kids. Like you'd see these vans filled with like 20 people, and some of them have kids on their backs in these like sacks, like these big bags. And it's like, how do you put your kid in that?
Like it's all good.
Yeah. So we're like in these countries where people are carrying their kids around like that, and it's like
much more relaxed. Everywhere around the world so far is much more relaxed with driving than
It's
the
been
United
chill.
States is, so
It's
that's
been
really
fun.
good.
I carry
and we
her.
have a custom car seat installed. We had a custom car seat installed, but she hates riding.
Yeah,
So she hasn't hardly been in that seat
I
at
know.
all.
Yeah.
She's either ridden in the back on the bed or in the front with Catherine.
Now
this
we're
whole
thinking
journey.
about, it'd be really cool to get like a new seat installed into our truck that's like a bench seat, so that you can fit 3 people, and then she could sit in the middle with a seatbelt. But right now it's just 2 seats, so she's kind of like in my lap and standing, and but yeah, I think eventually we'll find that.
So with this
site.
combined dream around the world, Catherine was interested in yoga. That's what she originally came at me for. So I taught her the yoga and how to get well and healthy with her consumption and her inner investment practice. She was also interested in the fire dancing, so she had her first fire dance with me
Yeah.
on New Year's of 2018 to 19. And then in January of 2020, once the truck was bought and we had as much prepared as we could, we hit the road.
Yeah.
And we made it all the way through the US, all the way through Mexico. Mexico City was the first place that we stayed in for a long period of time, for about a month. And the first big gig that we had, performing in downtown Mexico City. And where we were starting to get gigs, starting to have things happen. We weren't making a ton of money yet, by far. But Mexico was affordable. We were very good at couch surfing. We were very good at being resourceful, making connections. So the biggest expense was by far the fuel. the gasoline that we're putting into the truck. We made it all the way down to the Guatemala border. And I will remember it forever. It was March 14th, 2020, which was the day the pandemic started.
Yeah.
So we got to Guatemala at the border, and there's nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were going through, and the guards told us in Spanish, sorry, we're closed for quarantine.
Yeah.
I was like, I hadn't even heard about COVID or anything, because we were so focused on the journey and stuff like that. Hadn't even heard about it.
Yeah.
And up until like hours before this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, there's that word again. What's
what's
going
COVID?
on?
Yeah, what is
and they're
Corona?
like, we're shutting down the border, and you're not going to be able to get in for at least the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh, but he said that in Spanish.
I know. Catherine translated that. She's very good at Spanish.
At the time, I was not as good, but
We
yeah,
figured it out.
We figured it out. That was cerramos.
So here was the first big challenge of our journey. And a lot of people assumed that we would turn around and go home. But we were like, no, we're sure that this journey around the world is going to have tons of challenges. This is just the first big one, and we're going to wait it out. So we found through the Couchsurfing Hangouts a person who had a family farm, and he said we could stay in our truck on the family farm and volunteer our time while we waited right at the Guatemala border.
Yeah.
But it didn't open. Not for 3 weeks, not for 4 weeks, not for 5 weeks. Eventually, we went and looked around southern Mexico for another place where we could wait it out and apply ourselves more.
This was the biggest challenge this was the first big challenge of this journey, was facing, in our first country, the thoughts that were like, what are we gonna do? We can't get into the next country. Are we gonna turn around and go back to the United States? Hell no. Like, no way. Because if you think a pandemic culture in a third world country, maybe you might call it that, in Mexico, versus in the United States, would be hell in the United States. Everything would be closed and lots of people being afraid. Whereas in Mexico, a lot of people didn't care. And it's not that they were careless. It's more that like
they had other issues,
they had
other things in life to tend to.
Yeah.
And so if they were well and their family is well and their workers around the world, they carry on with life as usual.
There were some stores that had like the scanners. They would only let you in if they check your.
It was definitely a different world.
Yeah.
But in San Cristobal de las Casas, in the center of Chiapas, Mexico, the southernmost state in Mexico is called Chiapas, right next to the Guatemala border. Mm-hmm. We found this it wasn't a little town, it was a pretty big town, a few 100,000 people, about the size of Salala, where it was still pretty open and things were still happening there. It wasn't the same as it was, but it wasn't completely shut down. So we spent our time there teaching yoga, training a fire dancing team, doing fire dancing shows, and even cleaning up the town through what we started called all local cleanup parties.
Yeah.
Where we got locals and expats and foreigners all together, and we just cleaned up an area of the city, just because we recognized that, not that Mexico has it worse than any other country, but there's definitely a garbage problem. Yeah. A distributing of garbage. They don't have necessarily an organized garbage system in all different areas. So
at first we wanted to do one every month. I remember we wanted to do cleanup parties every month.
We were doing them every month.
Every month we were for a while, and then we started to see that places that we had just cleaned up were already starting to get trashed again by the local people. And so we're like, what is the long-term solution? I mean, we can't just keep getting expat people together to clean up after the locals. We have to educate the locals. Mm-hmm. So it started to become a bigger thing, and this didn't evolve until we got down into Nicaragua and Panama, where we connected. The all local cleanup parties got put on hold because we saw that it was more of a cultural educational issue than it was just about there being litter outside and maybe we can just all get together and clean up one day.
But it was a really actually rewarding experience.
It felt
every single
really
time
good.
that we did it. Yeah.
It felt good, but when you would go back there and see that things are starting to get the litter.
It was disheartening, for sure.
Yeah, so
we weren't making much of an impact.
It transformed when we started working with other foundations and establishments that were like
Professional groups.
paying locals to clean up and doing this like in an area long term. So we started to invest in that a little bit more.
Yeah, so we were investing in all the different places around the world that we were going. That helped us to establish more community, and the most valuable thing that you can do while traveling, both the most challenging thing to establish and the most challenging thing to leave. The hardest thing about traveling is not just picking up and going and staying in a place and establishing community, it's saying goodbye to that community. It's really the most difficult part on this trip is not anything but that.
Yeah.
But Catherine and I have developed our ability to connect with people deeply and formulate community more quickly through a lot of different techniques, the offerings that we have, the programs that we do. And those things cost nothing. There's just people volunteering their time and us volunteering our time. And that puts a substantial amount of value on us and us into the community. And people, once again, come out of the woodwork and have massive amounts of gratitude and will help us out in so many ways.
Yeah.
So once we made it through,
Yeah, I think let's kind of jump to after we had made it through Mexico, the Guatemala border obviously reopened and we got through. Guatemala was amazing. It was very similar to Mexico in like how like culturally there are people who speak Spanish, but everyone, what's interesting about Latin America, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica, all these places, they speak Spanish, but the indigenous people, they speak their Aztec and Mayan dialects that are
ancient.
to that particular city. So there are like hundreds of languages, very similar to Africa, how there's like hundreds of African languages in one country. It's like that also. This was a big misconception that I had when I had never traveled outside of the United States. So I thought, okay, I go to Mexico, I need to learn Spanish. But really connecting with the indigenous people is different. When I speak Spanish to the indigenous people, I'm actually speaking a middle language. That's the language that they were taught as well. And when we got to Mexico, their second language. When we got to Mexico, I really got to feel this because there was a kid who was learning Spanish. He spoke like tutuhil or something like that, like totsil. They make like tz, like tz sounds, and he was learning Spanish and trying to talk to me and practice his Spanish. And I was also learning Spanish. I'm like, this is so weird. Like we're speaking our second language together and trying to do our best, and it was just really cool. That was one of a very interesting cultural moments for me that I was not anticipating at all.
Right.
That moving into Mexico and Latin America, at first you think Spanish, but that's actually like the medium language, and a lot of people there are learning Spanish too.
Yeah, it's really amazing, especially once we got to Guatemala and we wanted to represent smaller kind of people who didn't have access to the internet, who weren't necessarily able to communicate via phone or read or write, but created amazing works of art, textiles and stuff like that. And we're just like, wow, this person is like an expert, a genius at what they do, but because they have no ability to communicate with the rest of the world, they have to set their standards super low. So we opted another project, which was called the All Local Merchants, and getting other people's like expert craftsmanship out to the world.
Yeah.
But then we came up with the obstacle of shipping. It was
Shipping was
all
horrible.
good, but international shipping is super challenging.
We can
to
end
deal
it
with.
right there.
But we kept moving through
Yeah.
and we kept doing our work, investing in cultures. We made it through all of Central America, and Nicaragua is where things
Nicaragua.
started to get really.
So Jesse and I are big hikers. We love to hike the mountains, and particularly day hikes, where we go up to the peak, we record some videos, and we come back down in one day. And that's what we do.
Not overnight hikes.
And at the time, we're like, kind of amateur or beginner level content creators making content for a...
No, we're professionals, just low-level professionals.
Yeah, low-level professionals making content. So we're making tutorial videos for other people to learn how to fire dance. And we're scouting locations that are just phenomenal to record our video tutorials that are being paid. And so we're hiking mountains to do this. Now, Jesse and I, very similar to like understanding the foundation is all energy. Anytime people say you have to go with a guide, because there are there are, I forget what they call them, like people up there with machetes, and they will try to steal your wallet at the top of the mountain. And people will tell us, like, you have to be careful, don't go alone. You know, there's danger up there, there's a machete guy. And we're just like, we're not gonna listen to this. We're not going to get afraid, because that fear is going to create that kind of situation.
Typically what happens in any culture, we notice around the world, is a few things happen. There's a few stories, a few horror stories that happen, you know, because bad things do happen around the world. But those few stories, they get blown up out of proportion. So we have mainstream media now, so we have a very big population. So bad things happen all the time, but in small pockets. But because the way that they're blown up and reported upon, it makes it seem like the issue is a lot bigger.
They happen a lot, yeah.
And people like to tell kind of horror stories and get attention and energy from that. Our human instincts are kind of drawn into that sort of drama.
Yeah.
And we'll blow up something that was small into something that's much bigger.
Yeah.
And so Catherine and I noticed this throughout the world, and so we stopped listening to it at a certain point.
We kind of tuned that out and said, okay, we're gonna go on a hike and check it out for ourselves and see how we feel and use our intuition. If we had felt like there were some like people down at the base calling walkie-talkie or whatever, like calling the people at the top, then we'd be like, this doesn't feel right, and we would turn around and we go back. But nothing like that happened, and we even
There's
had
nobody
like,
there.
There's no one there. It's the pandemic time, so we're like doing lots of hikes on our own, and we see no one up there. And we kept doing this, and then we even hiked volcanoes in the middle of the night using our phone app to find the trail alone by ourselves before Prana. Then when we get to Nicaragua, we decide, okay, we're gonna hike.
We feel pretty confident in
More
ourselves.
than confident. We're like, yeah. The phone literally says that it's a 3-hour hike to the summit, or a 3-hour hike there and back, or something
There
like
and
that.
back, yeah.
There and back is like 3.5 hours. So we're like, okay, let's make it the whole day. We left in the morning.
We'll have plenty of time to do our recordings and stuff at the top and make it back down before it gets dark.
So we get to the top, and it's an active volcano. It's not like spewing lava or anything, but it's hot at the very top. It was hot.
And smoking a little bit.
And smoking a little bit. And little precursor, this volcano is called Volcán Concepción, which means the conception volcano.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? So we hiked to the top of this volcano, and we do all of our recording, and then we're like, okay, it's about 3 or 4 o'clock in the day.
Yeah, there's a couple more hours left in daylight. Let's head back.
We're like, we need to head back before it gets dark. Otherwise, it's going to be dark by the time we need to get down the mountain. So we start looking for the trail, and we couldn't find it. We could not find the trail that we had just taken up to the summit. The way the foliage, the trees and the shrubs, they changed up at the top. It was like down at the bottom really hot. Then you went through the jungle where there's mud, lots of dirt, you're sliding, and lots of trees. And then you go up even higher, and it's clouds and like thorny bushes that you can't really grab because they're really pokey, big like leaves that cover you, like really big. And then you get even higher, and it's all rocks. No foliage. So we get back down to where there's the big leaves and the spiky things. We're like, where the heck is the trail?
Totally lost the trail. Everything was overgrown because of the pandemic. No one was hiking the trail anymore. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the people who maintained the trail weren't taking care of it. So it was easy to lose. And we kept looking for the trail. We'd find some of it, we'd hike, then we'd lose it again.
We lost it again.
And then it's starting to get dark. And we're basically saying, we can't hike this in the dark. It is actually quite dangerous to do that. We're gonna have to camp on this active volcano
and sleep up
without
here.
any equipment.
Yeah.
So we slept on this active volcano, and it was
a
very scary and stressful time.
We did not prepare for camping up there. We did not bring a tent. We did not bring an extra change of clothes. We only brought enough water for that day hike, and only like a carrot and an apple and like just a few snacks to take us through that. We're planning on making it back down for dinner and making some food at home. That did not happen. We ended up deciding that we're gonna have to make a bed up here. Some kind of like use these. So Jesse's like stomping on the spiky, I should find the picture. Getting lost on an active volcano. You're just gonna play it?
I'm just gonna play this the beginning and find this. this is one of like the most scary moments on the journey, is when you're actually stranded without supplies in an unknown place and you have no choice but to wait it out. The smartest choice is to basically sleep in an unknown place instead of trying to make it out in the dark.
Yeah.
And
this was actually supposed to be a cleanup party too.
this is one of our cleanup parties. We were going to clean up the trail. And it's so ironic too, because we would have welcomed a trail full of garbage, because it would have been obvious where humans are and how to get back to civilization. So we're like actually looking for garbage, looking for any sign of like human activity to find our way off. But because nature had taken over, there was nothing to clean up, and
This
there
is
was
like
nothing to
right
find.
in this area. In this area, you see the cursor?
Yeah, right in the center of Nicaragua.
In the center.
It's on an island in a giant freshwater lake called Ometepe Island. It is a beautiful place, but we slept on this this volcano, and actually surprisingly slept. Fortunately,
We did sleep.
when we woke up, still couldn't find the trail,
Yeah.
and ended up having to go through the thick of the jungle the whole way out for many kilometers out of it. We had the jungle in our hands, in our shins, in our shoes, everywhere. Long story short, that stress led to Catherine ovulating early
I
and
got
us
pregnant.
getting pregnant, conceiving on Volcan Concepcion, not on the volcano, but shortly after that.
After we made it back down, this was such
And
a
we didn't
crazy
find
moment.
out until the next country, until Costa Rica.
Costa Rica,
And then we're met with this choice: do we keep the baby or not?
Yeah.
And I was certain that we shouldn't.
No, Jesse was about ready
Adamant.
to like split. Like he was.
Well, I was so
he
certain that it was going to
done.
be so much more difficult having a baby on this journey, so much more expensive. We'd have no time for ourselves. It'd be really stressful and really dangerous to have a kid.
Yeah.
But Catherine tapped in and felt her intuition call out clearly that no,
Yeah.
this was meant to happen. This was definitely it. This
I
kid
was
was going to
certain.
be born.
I was like, Jesse, even if you leave me, I'm going to continue traveling the world with this baby. So, what are you gonna do? Like, it was kind of like that.
And it was one of my moments of like total powerlessness. You know,
Mm.
I had no choice but either to choose to commit to the situation or
Yeah.
abandon it. And I knew I wasn't going to abandon it, so I'd commit to it.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be a parent and a father, anyways. So it was
this was the
relieving
most-
also.
This was the most challenging thing on this journey, though, was finding out that we were pregnant.
And then simultaneously, moments later, get into the biggest car accident.
We got into
also,
a car accident with our truck,
and smashed
and
it.
had right around the time that we decided to keep the baby. So it was like one thing and then another, and it was a lot of stress. Costa Rica, we did not really experience Costa Rica and its people because we were so wrapped up in we're pregnant and then car accident, we have to get things. So we were doing a lot of online work and a lot of just
Well, the journey went from about us and kind of doing our best to make ends meet, volunteering our time, making a little bit of money here and there, to
Yeah.
now we're going to support a kid on this journey. So we have to commit to this journey now. We have to commit to our careers. So from sunup to sundown, every single day, we're committed to ourselves in this journey, in this career.
yeah.
So having Prana, or deciding to have Prana, was the biggest boost in this journey that we ever could have asked for, because now we had to do it.
Now we
There's
had
nothing like having to do it. So the first step of getting better at something is showing up and experiencing the humility cost. The second thing that helps you is find a way to make yourself have to do it. Like, and nothing really motivates you the same as having
Prana, do you wanna sit on my lap
needing
for
to
a
support
second?
your child. So we
Okay.
really committed to developing ourselves and making the money that we needed to, because we thought it was going to be really expensive. So it boosted our ability to do work,
Yeah.
really committing to it like that. And we found out, so we conceived in Nicaragua. Catherine carried Prana in her womb for 5 countries and over continents, all the way to Ecuador,
Right.
to the second country in
We conceived
in
here
South
in
America.
Central America, and then we traveled 5 countries down to Quito, Ecuador, where we had her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Prana was born in Quito, Ecuador.
Which is amazing. I was telling you guys that she was born in a country that gives right of soil, which means that anyone born in that country is automatically a citizen, and it doesn't matter where your parents are from, as long as you're there in that country, born. So she is an Ecuadorian, or they say in Ecuador, they call Ecuadoriana. So she's Latina. Oh, what are you doing there? She's zooming in for us. Yeah, so she has dual citizenship, and this is kind of a big purpose of going around the world just ourselves, is to grow the concept of world citizens. And
So now, not only are we developing ourselves as world citizens, we're literally raising a world citizen
yeah,
knows nothing but
I'm gonna
journeying
have you
around
go
the world
back
so
to your
far.
show.
She's been to 14 countries,
stop.
and she's 2.5 years
What are you
old.
doing? No,
Okay,
don't
so
touch this. I don't. No, you're not helping.
and
though, I'm
unfortunately
sorry.
has
You're opening
um,
things that we're not supposed to open.
parents
Come
who
here.
are savvy with their ability to communicate with themselves and their intuition, so we've always been able to communicate pretty well with her,
Yeah,
and she's growing up amazingly.
she's almost 3.
Yeah, and what we didn't realize, so the perks of having a child on the road is you are much more trusted.
Yeah.
When people look at you as an individual, or even as a couple, traveling around the world, it's like, what are these guys up to? You know, maybe what can I get from them? You know, there's people around the world and they want to use their authority, you know, or their expertise to kind of like swindle you or get some money out of you, right? But when they see you with a child, things change
Yeah.
completely.
Especially with a baby. When we traveled through Latin America after Ecuador, going through Peru,
The difference between getting through authority figures and border crossings and all sorts of government stuff or military stuff, between us as a couple versus us as a family, no contest. Everything was so much easier, so much faster, so much more fluid.
I'm turning this.
Because she would change the energy in a room automatically. All that stuff that we were focusing on, investing in ourselves, our posture, our breath, shifting our own mental, emotional frequency, for her, it's automatic. You know, she's fresh, she's healthy, she's happy, she's loving the world, and it's all she knows. So it's purely innocent. People recognize that either consciously or unconsciously, I don't know, but she's able to open doors unlike we never could, you know, and get us gigs or get us into certain circumstances that we would have never been able to on our own. So as crazy as it sounds, journeying around the world is easier having a kid than being solo or as a couple. There are a few things that are more challenging, right? She does take up some of our time.
Yeah.
But Catherine and I, because when we got pregnant and decided to keep it, got used to working from sun up to sundown, we're just used to applying ourselves 24/7. So we don't live your normal work week where we have the weekends, you know, we work during the week and the weekends. No, we work all week. You know, we're working right now.
Yeah.
Right? We're always focusing on our journey, harnessing more information, or developing our skill set better and delivering it, marketing, networking ourselves. And we've had to develop that hardcore.
Yeah.
But now to the point where Prana is just a part of that. We're at home working, we call it work play, with her at home, and we take breaks whenever we need to tend to her, to play with her, to get her what she needs.
Mm-hmm.
And if we need to focus on something else and both of us need to be attentive, she's got our educational shows, and that makes it easy too.
Yeah.
And just entertains herself, and she's learning how to do that very well.
I have more on this topic here in a moment.
Please,
Yeah.
let me take this out to Fahad.
No, don't take it because it's all connected and the battery just died, so it needs to be plugged in.
Oh.
But so when we decided to keep Prana and I started to like get more and more pregnant, I started to see the way in which people would interact. You know, people treat you differently when you're a pregnant lady. And when Jesse and I are like sharing our story, this is our 6th country we've driven here. It's just died. It died, so I had to plug it in. Then we started to attract more professional connections, more families, more people who are actually like integrated into a community a bit more. Whereas before we got pregnant, we were attracting more party people, more travelers who are on vacation and don't really take it so seriously. They're just here to have fun. And that's okay, but it's not really where we were wanting to go as professionals either. So it's almost like having a kid helped us to attract more sincerity in other people and more like professional people, just simply because people saw us differently. And so the people who are just in it to party, or just here for vacation and don't really care so much about like the value of yoga or the value of traveling indefinitely or for whatever interpersonal reasons, those kind of people might have seen us but then not entered our circle, and then we would attract more people who are interested in hearing our story and learning from us in a way, and so, or working together in some kind of way too. So it really started to shift like when we got into Panama. After Costa Rica, we moved down to Panama, and I'm starting to get more pregnant, and we're starting to go into places and tell our story. Like, look, we drove here from the United States. We're professional fire dancing performers. This is a big thing. Like, it doesn't matter what your dream is. That's why I call this book Design Your Dream Job and Start Traveling. We're professional fire dancers, but you don't have to be. You could be a tattoo artist. You could be a sermon, or you could be a therapist, or whatever it is that is your dream. There is a way to make it suit you in a mobile kind of way, where you can go around to different places of your country even, or the world, whatever you want, and make it possible. And when we were pregnant, and then after, from the moment we got pregnant up until now, we've been like 100% focused on how we're gonna make this successful for ourselves in a very structured kind of way. And more people started asking us, because they're seeing our success, how are you doing this? How are you making money? How are you avoiding danger? How are you living like this? How are you gonna raise a kid like this? And so all of these how questions coming from so many different angles, I'm like, I've written an answer to this question so many times. I should write a book on it. And actually the first thing that I did was I started going live and sharing answers. I'm gonna share a little bit of my story to a live stream.
I did start in Nicaragua.
And it was a free live stream, just like, you don't have to pay for it. And then people started telling me, you should be charging for this. I want to donate money to you. And for free events that I did on Facebook, people started asking me for my PayPal address so they could send me some donations. And I was not expecting that. I wasn't in it to like, create a structure and sell them on some course. I had no idea that that was going to happen in the future, but people wanted it. People wanted more of that kind of education. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do this again, and I'm gonna make it a month-long course. I'm gonna call it, what did I call it? Becoming a Professional Traveler. That's what I called it before this book came out, which is called Design Your Dream Job and Start Traveling. It was Becoming a Professional Traveler. And so I made this month-long course where I did a live like group session with everyone every week for 1 month. And at the end, I did like a one-on-one kind of like, what's your dream? How can I help you? Just get started. And it was great. Everyone got results. Everyone was happy. But what I found is that 1 month is not enough time to actually change someone's life. To actually change someone's lifestyle and get them out of their 9-to-5 job that they commute to every day and start living their dream job and traveling. It's a lot of stuff. So I'm like, okay, how about we go in on this together, and it's not just me doing the coaching and the calls, but we go in on this together and we make it 3 months, and we meet every week, and we go through, every month is a different module. So in this book is literally that course but into a book. So we made it 10 chapters, but there's like laying the foundation and discovering the dream and manifestation. That's like module 1, 2, 3, and 4 is like the first month of our course. And then 5, 6, and 7 is like the second month, and then the third month is more like catered to the individuals and what they're personally working on. That's kind of what Jesse and I did for this 3-month course, and it was expensive for what Jesse and I have been doing around the world with our fire shows costing a certain amount. This course was like the biggest thing that we had ever done. Mm-hmm. So, and we booked up, we sold out. We had 5 spots available. Was it 5 or 3? Maybe it was 4.
It was 3, and we had one was a couple. So
one was a couple. We had 4
students.
We booked up. We only wanted
and that's
to
all
take
we were
some
able to do. Man, it was such a huge investment, time investment for us. because we would meet with everybody once a week as like a group, and then we would meet with each of them individually throughout the week, once a week, every single week for 12 weeks.
And the people who were in our course are traveling more. They are working on their business a lot more.
We're actually planning on an event with one of them who lives in South Africa who wants to do an event in France actually next year with us.
Yeah.
Because their dream is just like ours, but for them they're focused on like older people, basically
swaps.
how to like
going back and forth between France and South Africa. South Africa, and
like the generation that's older, like catering it to. Their company is called
Welderly.
The Welderly.
Welderly, like elderly, but in a wellness way. Like they're welderly. That's
And
their business.
reinventing yourself, not going through like midlife crisis or having that empty nest kind of stage, but like kind of reinvesting in their youth by going out into the world and traveling.
It's a beautiful
Similar
project.
like to what we're doing, but in a more established way where they're able to actually like go and stay in other strategic places like
So-
they're already set up.
This kind of evolved. This talk that we're doing right now kind of evolved because it started right in here through was it
Chile.
Chile and Argentina is where I did the 1 month course. And I think I went live actually in Nicaragua. The first live stream was in Nicaragua when we were like,
But then the course was halfway down Chile.
the
that
1
1
month course was in Chile. And then Jesse and I did the 3 month long one
Once
up through Africa. It was actually in Namibia and like up through Africa like that. And so once we got to Salalah, we manifested a beautiful place to stay in Salalah on a non-monetary exchange. Just you guys can live here for free and we can have like all you can eat buffet and we do fire shows for them every weekend and teach
And yoga
yoga.
classes.
It's amazing. And we're doing a lot of that more, especially with having a kid. I don't know what it is, but there's magic to this, like being a traveler and a professional and a family. Boom, boom, boom. And people are like, wow, like it's really cool because of that, we've stayed and met some really wonderful people. And we've worked with nice businesses, like really nice businesses, and I wouldn't have ever thought that it would have been so easy to do, especially and having like that ticket being a kid. I'm like, maybe I can't credit her completely, but okay, so in Salalah we stayed at this beautiful place and there was like a kids club and a lady who was watching her every day for 1 hour. And in that 1 hour, I would write all of the course data, the modules, into this book. So I started writing this book in Oman, and now we're publishing it and launching it on Oman National Day. So it's really special, and the book doesn't relate to Oman, but it relates to traveling, and
it relates to
Oman
every
has been like a home.
every single thing that goes into how we're able to do this in as much of like a general way as possible so that it can be customized towards whatever another person wants to do. And even if you don't know what you want to do, there's a development to that. A lot of people are like, maybe believe that like a purpose comes to you or a dream comes to you. But what I think happens for most human beings is actually you have to develop it. You have to figure out what it is and what you would be driven to going through challenges, what would be worth it. And go over that many, many times, because going back full circle to the original point, if your mind is consuming the thoughts that you wanted to consume and keep on visualizing what it is that you're looking to achieve, whatever, it doesn't matter how outlandish or how big, it will inevitably happen. You know? And it's something that you end up developing more and more over time. So once you have that developed and you have the idea and the clarity, well then there's next stage of actually breaking it apart into actually bite-sized pieces and steps that you could potentially take in order to get to that end result. So this book, basically, it starts with, and with anybody, and you guys can have one of this worksheets for free. We call it Future Observations.
It's in this book.
First getting clear with
Future Observations.
where do you want to travel? What do you want to do? You know,
It's like written.
who do you want to meet? What sort of relationships do you want to have? Who do you want to become as a person? What sort of material possessions would you like to have? What's your dream home, your dream car? You know, any of these amount of things you need to write down in clear handwritten detail in the present tense. So Catherine and I have developed an awareness that the people who achieve what they want to achieve or manifest what they want to manifest, they don't wait till later. It's not a New Year's resolution, it's not a goal. It's this is what is happening. Even if it's not happening, you write things out in the present tense because we're only existing now. So if you're focusing on the future, when the future comes, when tomorrow comes, it'll be today and it'll be now.
Yeah.
So we have to start thinking about things in terms of now and getting the mind and body restless to either going out and finding what the next step is going to be or in a lot of cases manifesting the next step. It just kind of comes to you, the next person, the next resource. You just never know. All you had to do was keep thinking about it so that when that door comes and presents itself, you're like, oh, perfect, next opportunity. I'm gonna take the small to sizable leap of faith and capitalize on this opportunity and say yes to it. That's really how Kath and I have been able to afford this journey, is capitalizing on opportunities that present themselves, right? We didn't know about Oman and Salalah and Kharif season, and it just falls into our lap, right? It was too hard. We had our heart set on driving through Africa and getting to Egypt, and that simply was not going to happen. But what ended up happening was even better. We got to Salalah right before Kharif season happened. We get this beautiful place to stay. We have the time to create this book. And then we get to enjoy a nice, cool Arabian summer. Like the coolest place in all of Arabia, we're staying in the entire time. And then once it starts to cool off in Muscat, then we come up here. But because we've established ourselves so well in Salalah and everybody has connections, and it's much more communal here, it was easy to transition into Muscat. And this is basically how we've learned how to do it and create community around the world. You know, and it's been very challenging on us to be able to make a lot of friends around the world and then have to say goodbye to those friends. But this is
It's not ever goodbye though, because we have social media.
Yeah, no, we're still connected.
Yeah.
But like I said before, the biggest challenge now is dealing with our hearts, managing the connections and the distancing from those connections. That's really the workout that we're going through on this journey. More than adapting to cultures, which we'll get to the foods and stuff here in a moment.
Yeah, I want to get to everyone, just so you know, it's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I know, let's get to everybody's
everyone's questions.
It's not just the stressful environments and circumstances and dangerous situations. It's actually more the vulnerability of connecting with people and then the vulnerability of leaving those connections. That's really the most challenging.
I want to say too, you've mentioned a lot about like very like general answering of like how we do it financially and how we make how we avoid like danger and things of this sort, like very big questions that have strategic answers and step by step. That's what's in this book, and it's so much. Like if I was to actually explain it all to you from start to finish, what we do before we get to a country, up to the border, and then after we get into the country, and like how we make more connections once we're there, and how we adapt, and like all those things. There are so many little micro steps that we have learned that we need to do before going to a country, after we get in the country. All these things, we have checklists, and that's what's in this book.
Yeah.
So we have like a section here, I think you can see. There's making the model. This is like your business model related to designing your dream job. And then understanding financial literacy as a traveler. So how to kind of break away from the vacation mindset and combine vocation, which is career, in with your vacation so that you can live a lifestyle of constant holiday while constantly collaborating as a career-focused individual.
Consistently investing in yourself and your career while at the same time you're investing in a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's this is the most valuable section of this whole book, I've got to say. Number 9, steps to collaborations. Because a lot of people ask us, how do you meet people in the next country if you don't know anyone there?
How are you guys living this like millionaire lifestyle?
Yeah.
How did you must be really rich? No, we just know how to collaborate. We know how to meet people and go through the steps of what it takes to actually do a straight across exchange.
Couch surfing is one of those ways. There's couch surfing, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's word of mouth and the people who you know already.
If you're thinking poor, you'll attract poor, but if you're thinking rich, you'll attract rich, with or without the money.
Mm-hmm. And
it's a matter of, it's a 2-step process essentially. thinking rich or rich thoughts and not thinking poor
Not thinking
thoughts.
poor thoughts. And
That's the lesser common known thing. It's like we all know to think positively, but we also don't necessarily know how to not think negatively.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that. You start to master those two, you start to gain 200%. Doesn't matter how much money or connections you have. It really has to do with your own mindset. If your mindset is rich, at the same time not poor, that's a 200% increase.
Yeah.
Do that again and get better at that, another 200% increase. That's how Catherine and I are thriving. It's just a mindset, literally. And just interrupting our poor thoughts and our poor beliefs and our doubts and our fears and our worries. If we experience them, fine, we learn from them. And the rest of the time, we're constantly switching our attention to what is good about this situation, or what is my dream, or what is the next step, or positive thinking, constructive thinking, not deconstructive thinking. But if we get into deconstructive habits, we learn to train ourselves to think about our deconstructive habits in a renovating kind of way. As in, if I'm dismantling this sort of perception of myself, or what I can do, or this community, or this person, what's a slightly more constructive way of looking about that situation? That also is in the book, and that's going to be our second book, actually. It's called Binary Consciousness. It's how to train your mind to stop thinking negatively by recognizing every one of your perceptions has the potential of being positive. Every single one. Every single thing around the world has potential in it to actually grow and gain value from. And with this skill, you literally can derive value out of anything, any sort of situation. And people will start to notice it, and they'll start to want to invest in it or get involved in it because they want that too. It's an energy. People won't necessarily be able to explain it, but they'll be like, there's something about this person. And it's almost like you go into it and you're like people's personal good luck charm. Because you don't always necessarily help them the way that you expect even. Like we have our careers, we have our offerings. It is what we offer, and a lot of the times it's what we do. But that's not always the service that we actually provide. And I learned this through couch surfing. The best thing that you can do for any amount of people, whether they be new or old, is have them be as or more comfortable in the space that they're in, having you be there than having you not be there. If you are making a person's life just a little bit better, people will want to invest in that. People will go head over heels now, because it's actually not that common of a thing, because most people are outside in the rat race, running around, trying to do the right thing, or trying to get more money, or trying to do this, that, and the other, rather than just benefiting someone's life a little bit. Because what happens, I notice, when you do that and you make a habit out of doing that, it comes back to you. It comes back in ways sometimes expected and sometimes unexpected. So we have the workforce because we go there, we work, and we expect the paycheck, right? And then it comes back to us. So it's like a guaranteed reciprocal energy. But something that Catherine and I are setting out to teaching and do through this book and do through our lifestyle is you can put that work forward. You can show up to work and make someone's life better and get that paycheck back in ways sometimes expected and sometimes not expected. But you can learn through leveling out and keeping your mind focused that it's trackable. You can count on it. There's a science to it. It's not something that ends up being a leap of faith every time. You start to notice the pattern. I give and I receive. And it's not usually I give and I receive back the same. No, you usually give and you get back more than you expect. You know? And it's worked like that in so many ways that Catherine and I have been able to run out of money on this journey 6 or 7 times. And we're still going. And better than that, we're not afraid of losing money anymore. We're not afraid of running out of money anymore. We've been there, done that. We know all the ways about what's going to happen if it does happen.
What to do.
But funny enough, now that the fear is gone, the money's coming in. Yeah. And now we get more time to develop our other projects, like training people how to do what we do. This is the 4th aspect of our business. We teach yoga, we do fire dancing, we create edited video content, and now we train people how to do what we do.
Yeah.
And there are people around the world who are doing that, and we're just going to keep on refining this. So that's, I think, the culmination of what we have time to talk about as it relates to us and our journey and our book.
I think let's get into what other people want to hear.
Yeah,
about
yeah,
too.
yeah. I want to talk about all the other things. Is there one of the points that you wanted to bring up?
I'm going to go through all of the questions first.
Yeah,
and
sure.
then we can ask more questions along the way. But the first question that we received was actually digital from a friend of ours named Melissa Cannon. She said, when you are preparing to move from one country to another, how do you prepare prana?
Sweetie.
How's that? Okay. When you're preparing to move from one country to another, how do you prepare yourselves to understand the local traditions and societal norms/customs? Now, I would say that this has evolved as we've gone. In the beginning, it was a lot more nonchalant because from what we've understood about Latin America, it's pretty laid back. I could wear a crop top and shorts and no one would say a word.
Staten Island.
Yeah, it was fine. But I knew that everyone would speak Spanish, so I prepared myself to learn a new language by mentally encouraging myself to be open to those kind of culture shocks, and there were those culture shocks. I remember as soon as we got into Mexico, all of the signs that are advertising things outside as you're driving are in Spanish
no
now.
longer can recognize them.
I couldn't read them anymore. All of the road signs that said stop would now say like alto because it's in Spanish. Everything is in Spanish now. Everywhere you look, you're seeing Spanish. And
To answer the question quickly,
Uh-huh.
we have learned so much through two primary things. One, as I said, just show up. You will learn.
Yeah.
But two, YouTube.
YouTube and asking the people that we know now too.
And well, once you start to develop the community, then you can start asking the community. But there's such a huge community online
Yeah.
with YouTube tutorials, learning Spanish,
Yeah.
learning this, learning that. Just have the willingness to show up to those classes and have a vested interest and a little bit of discipline. Discipline enough to show up and give your undivided attention. It doesn't even matter if it's for 5 minutes. Get yourself to show up for those 5 minutes. Eventually it'll get easier to show up for 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You'll learn a lesson. Then you do it once a day, twice a day. Before you know it, you will be able to carry on a conversation in Spanish. You'll know about a culture before you get there, so it's much more easy to integrate into that culture. And the other thing too is don't worry about it. The world is mixed more than we could have ever expected on this journey. We thought when we would go around the world, we would be the minority most of the time. No, there's people from around the world in every single community that we found.
Yeah.
Even throughout Africa, we thought for sure, at least Africa is going to be like nobody there and no internet. No,
Yeah.
there's people from all around the world in every single country, and there's internet, and so many people speak English now. I couldn't believe how many people in the world speak English.
Yeah.
Like that, like how we were blessed by that was just beside me. I couldn't believe that. So it's a combination of the world's cultures are already mixing. Your culture you will find and naturally attract wherever you go. And the people who are there aren't necessarily going to fully expect you to immerse yourself in their culture, at least completely, but just showing the willingness to, a little bit, gets a person to open themselves up, open their heart up, open their home up a lot of the time. You don't have to totally submerge yourself or be an expert. No one's expecting that. But if you're just making the attempt to a little bit,
Oh, no, you need it.
people really respect that. So with Catherine and I, who our entire purpose of this journey was to experience the world. So that's what we're here for. People are like, yeah, welcome. You know, every single time, we're not thinking that America's the right way, and like that's like the stereotype of America is that we're doing it right and you're doing it wrong. But that's not the way. We're like, everybody in the world is existing. So everybody must be doing something right. Maybe we go around the world and we figure out what works for other people, and we take little bits and pieces from all sorts of different walks of life and integrate it into our own. And that's been working out really well.
It has been.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to answer these questions a lot quicker than that.
Next question.
The next question is very similar. As outsiders, are you guys expected to conform with local culture? We've never been expected to conform with local culture.
Yeah.
However, there have been places secured places, for example, Machu Picchu, they don't want you to take long videos, and in mosques, they want you to, cover your shoulders and stuff like that. It's just, that's not but I don't think that that's conforming to culture. I think that that's
just being respectful.
Yeah.
What's up with Machu Picchu? Why no videos?
I think that what we heard was that someone was taking pictures and videos naked in front of Machu Picchu, and then the police got involved. Yeah. So
someone wrote it for a video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that
and also it's such a popular spot. They have to get people to keep moving. So if you're sitting there with your camera trying to spend like a half an hour to get this video, you're kind of blocking the line. You're blocking the traffic. Yeah.
Hypothetically, if you wear like a GoPro just on your helmet or something.
That's
then,
okay.
Yeah, you could do that. You might need
well,
to hide it. You might need to hide it.
You
though.
might need to hide it. Yeah, it depends.
They
It depends on what is in front of you. Are you just recording the scenery? If it's just the scenery and you're just walking through like it's nothing, probably be fine.
Yeah.
But like Catherine and I, we wanted to do like some of our flow arts performing and stuff like that. They busted us on the spot, like within seconds.
Within seconds, they actually have cameras around Machu Picchu, and that's
it's
on top of a mountain.
they just had to draw the line once the nakedness and stuff came out, and people kind of being a big distraction towards all the other viewers, and things get blocked up. For them, it's both something that's sacred and it's a business. So they need to do things that are both focused on the sacredness of the site and moving people along, getting it through. So you have to conform to, as you travel around the world, it's interesting, you will actually learn not just about cultures, you'll learn about the way that business is done, the way that people do exchanges with each other. Because everything is an exchange of energy. Everything in a way is kind of like a business. And so we don't have to conform to that. We just, once again, have to improve people's lives if we possibly can a little bit. Give forward a little bit of our energy, and that energy ends up coming back to us. The next one is, how do you ensure Prana's safety during your performances? We use our intuition. First of all, we don't ever work for sketchy people. That's true. We have a bunch of checks and balances of understanding a person's character ahead of time. Or in dangerous locations. The right questions to ask, the right things to look out for, so that the odds of us working for a problematic person in a problematic situation are practically zero. We usually don't do performances at nightclubs and bars and places that draw in energy for alcohol and drinking and partying and that kind of stuff. It's usually more family-friendly places. We always make sure we communicate with the people who are hiring us that we have our 2-year-old daughter with us. Can she be watched by someone in your staff? Is there someone that would enjoy being attentive to her? And most of the time, Prana is very good at manifesting too, so she manifests good company. Or we have a guest coming, and they have a kid, and they're like, yeah, I can watch her, and we'll watch your show. And sometimes she just watches her own little TV show and has a little juice or something, and our show is 20 minutes long usually, and then we come back to her. Yeah. So that's how we ensure her safety. There have been a couple of times where we've met people who have their kids in their own house, and we brought her to kind of have her own play date for a few hours, and then we come back and pick her up a little bit later. Yeah. And I know that as she gets older, things are going to change. Once again, though, it's refining your intuition. You can get vibes from people ahead of time and from gigs ahead of time, as well as developing your analysis of your analytical mind of what to look for. Yeah, I completely trust her in this space, because you can feel that this space, it's a closed environment. There's kids' toys, there's other kids' activities here, and everyone here is super friendly and either has kids or is family oriented. So it's fine. She can go run out there. Yeah. Okay, I think that on the topic of Prana, a lot of people want to hear a little bit more about what it's like traveling with kids. Yeah. And we've already shared a little bit about the beginning of that when we were making the decision to do this and really commit to it with being a family. But what why don't you share a little bit about our plans with world schooling and what world schooling is? Because a lot of people ask us, how are you going to educate her? Yeah. So first of all, with Prana, with having kids, what kids do, whether you're traveling with them or not, is what they're going to do is they're going to bring out your rawness. They're going to bring out your realness. You're going to have beautiful moments with your kids, and you're going to have ugly moments with your kids, because they're going to bring out that stuff in you that you could only really be exposed to this totally untrained clear aspect of yourself, you know. It's so clearly like, I never looked at another person and so simultaneously was like, you're so like me and you're so like your own individual at the same time. You know, I see myself in you and also you're totally unlike me completely. And Prana will bring that out of me and it'll make me a better person. So I do my best to practice being a better parent, being a better person, which makes me develop my ability to form relationships with other people better. So she is like, in a way, kind of like a trainer. She's training me without even trying to train me. And so if you're willing to commit to that, having a kid will benefit you because you have this free trainer with you. Like she trains me in a way that a professional business trainer never could, because she pushes me to my absolute max, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally. So that when I'm in other situations, professionally or in other unknown circumstances, relatively speaking, it's nothing in comparison to how much she can push me. That being said, on the flip side, as long as I'm keeping her more entertained and giving her my undivided attention and showing my enthusiasm and love for her, she's always happy, which is very similar to what other people feel too. If I'm entertaining another person, giving them my good energy, they're happy. The exchange goes good. We're encouraging Prana in this way to become more educated by giving her lots of educational stimuli. So she's constantly at school, you know. She's learning about the world, she's learning about her basic arithmetic, numbers, colors, animals, all of that stuff, her ability to socialize with people, and there's a new movement happening around the world that's called world schooling. So there's public schools, there's private schools, there's all sorts of different types of schooling, homeschooling, but there's a new one that's coming out that's called world schooling. There's so many people traveling now that they don't necessarily want to take their kid to a public or private school, but instead they bring all the kids together, some locals, some expat kids, and they put them all into one kind of classroom, and they educate the kids both on like regular lessons that you would learn in normal school, but also bring in other things about the local culture, you know, and learn about these different things and make it fun for the kids. So we absolutely have and are going to continue to increase Prana's world education by putting her into these world schooling hubs wherever we find them around the world, so that she can learn about local customs and cultures, so that it's natural for her. You know, 'cause for her it'll be like just like play, just like it would be with the local kids, right? It's not like, it's like, yeah, this is what we grew up doing. And she'll get an opportunity to experience that while at the same time being educated in all the things and how to read, write, do math, and stuff like that. How we're going to necessarily keep refining that, because I know it's going to get more and more complicated as she gets older and older. But there's a part of me that's really looking forward to it, because school is not just something that it came second nature to me as an individual, but I really liked it. It was very entertaining for me. So there's a part of me that's looking forward to going through that again with her. But that's something that's personal and catered to me. So I'm able to manage that with having a kid abroad, because I'm looking forward to all of this stuff. When you have a kid, and this happens double for me, since I had been traveling for 10 years and I've experienced a lot of the world, I'm not saying that I'm getting jaded from traveling, but I've experienced a lot, so that it takes more to surprise me now. But something I noticed with having a partner who's never been anywhere around the world, and now having a kid who's seeing the world with fresh eyes, their enthusiasm of things really makes me feel like, wow, I'm doing something good for them. And their enthusiasm and enjoyment of their life like this is feeding me, you know? It's giving me that energy and that drive effortlessly to want to continue what I do. Even if I'm not enjoying myself as much, because I work really hard, watching them enjoy themselves as much as they do, and they do a lot, is so rewarding, and you get that energy back. So it's another way that they are either consciously or unconsciously putting energy into me and getting it back. Oh! And she's pretty fun too, and pretty enthusiastic. So she's not that hard of a kid to raise. which is fortunate. I know that some kids would be really challenging in a lifestyle like this, but we really lucked out. I'm getting a very cute, intelligent, well-communicative, smart kid. So
Yeah.
overall, it's really not a problem to have her.
Uh-huh.
There's only just those few times where she's really tests us mentally and emotionally.
Well, those are lessons, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was just telling them it's like having a professional trainer who's
Oh, yeah.
training you to be able to manage hard to manage circumstances in professional settings. So in comparison to any of those circumstances with her and some of those really challenging, it's like nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can keep my cool all the time
Mhm.
and keep focused all the time because she pushes me to that highest level.
Yeah.
Other people and business prospects don't so much anymore.
I want to get to everyone's questions.
Let's
here in
keep
the
going.
room.
Let's, do you guys have a little bit more time? We're going a little bit over time. It's 9:15.
It's 9:15. Is that okay?
Yeah. You're welcome to go at any time. We won't be offended.
Yeah.
But if you want to stick around, we'll keep getting to every single person's questions and interests.
Also, if you want to purchase the book, you can actually pay at the front desk, and it can be shipped to anywhere in Oman or even UAE, anywhere. So we have a publisher in the UK, so it's not very far for the shipping. But yeah, any questions right off the bat right now?
Almost cover everything.
Almost cover everything.
Yeah.
Everything except for the food.
Food part is that you need to make a book for it maybe later on.
I think so.
More people, and Catherine has the interest of actually making like a worldwide cookbook.
Yeah, cookbook.
To answer your questions, so the first two that came up for me of my favorite food so far was gallo pinto, which is the simplest dish you can make, and it's all throughout Central America. It's basically a form of beans, rice, and herbs.
Beans, rice, and like chopped tomatoes and herbs. Yeah, it's really good.
It's very simple, but we haven't been able to emulate it. I don't know how they make it because it's such a simple dish. You think, how easy.
Yeah.
There's spice mix.
The way they
You're right.
make it.
It's totally the spice mix. Yeah.
Very
It's
simple.
so delicious. And you'll talk to them. It's a simple dish, and it's almost every local's favorite, and it ends up becoming your favorite
Turn off your
too.
flashlight.
It's the simplest dish ever. How could you would think it'd be something like a culinary masterpiece or something like that. But it's like no. Gallo pinto.
Which is
Gallo pinto. Pinto.
When are you guys leaving Oman?
Leaving Oman?
End of this month. 2 more weeks. Peruvian ceviche
I was gonna say that as my first.
was insane.
Ceviche?
And we got it prepared by a
Peru.
professional Peruvian chef
It was so good.
in the Sacred Valley at a very nice place.
Ceviche is like
And
seafood and
It was
lemon
mind-blowing.
juice. And
It was
just
one of
like-
those times where you're so upset because there's no more. You want to be greedy, like you want to be like, no, chef, go make more now. Don't insult me by this little amount.
Chilaquiles.
Chilaquiles in Mexico, wow.
In
Yeah.
Mexico, you'd think tacos, but no. Mexico has chilaquiles.
It's
Those are
a
so
breakfast
good.
dish that's essentially a breakfast nachos.
Nachos,
which is like
chips,
tortilla chips and like authentic handmade
everything on
homemade
top.
tortilla chips with like eggs and spices and cheese and all of these herbs and stuff. Just
The
like
eggs and the beans and the cheese and
it's one of those. Technically, it's really simple, cheap things to make.
Yeah.
But the way that they prepare it is just like outstanding, just mind blowing.
I'll try my hands at cooking those.
Yeah?
What's that?
I'll try my hands at cooking those.
Cooking
Yeah.
gallo pinto?
Yeah.
Wow. Also in Brazil, there was what were they called? Like the like not crepes, but they were like made out of made out of what is it called? You would have to look on
Bring
Google.
a picture.
I'm gonna put this in the garbage.
All right, go.
Was it tapioca?
Yeah, tapioca pearls. Tapioca. Tapioca.
So they would make, what's really popular in Brazil is like these tapioca pancakes, and I can't remember what they're actually called right now, but it's this tapioca flattened out, and they once again put like whatever you want, beans and vegetables and or meats and stuff on top of it. But the texture, it's like chewy.
Mm-hmm.
It's super chewy.
Acai in Brazil was really good. Like real acai. You can find acai here, but it's like sugar. There's more sugar in it. In Brazil, you can find real acai that is just acai, no sugar.
Oh, and like jackfruits everywhere, falling off into the road. Giant fruits, the biggest fruits in the world, just splattered everywhere. Just making a mess out of everything. But so good.
Yeah.
And you'll wake up to monkeys like feasting off of this stuff and knocking them off the trees and breaking them open on the ground and going down and eating them.
Really cool to hear the monkeys on the top of our truck when we're like camping in the truck and you hear something on the roof and you're like, what was that?
And then you see a tail.
Good, you found the garbage can. Do you want to take this one too? This one's garbage too. Watch out, don't. Watch the cords. No, keep this one.
I'm trying to think of
Just go take that
worst meals.
Okay, I don't remember like a particular meal that was the worst, but I had something in Mexico that triggered like an acidic response in my stomach, and it was like I was not hungry for like 3 days because my stomach, it felt like, when you drink like a soda or like a Pepsi and you feel like you can burp and you have that like, it feels good. But this, I did not drink a soda and I had that. And it was like that for like 3 days or more. And afterwards, it was just like my whole system cleared out and it was horrible because we didn't have a place to live. So I had to keep going into the cafe. Prana, slow yourself. Are you okay? Are you getting dizzy?
Yeah.
Come here, sit up here.
I'm getting dizzy or what?
Okay. Are you pretending to be dizzy too?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Like a cat.
Okay.
Like a cat fall down and there's a guitar.
A guitar? Okay.
And there's a blue guitar. And I'm dizzy.
Hey Prana, what's been some of your favorite foods on this trip?
What's your favorite food?
Chicken.
Chicken?
What?
No.
No, you don't.
She doesn't even eat chicken though.
All right.
Okay, you're silly.
I think you have some other favorites, but you're probably just coming with whatever comes to mind first.
She's connecting with everyone in the room.
Yeah.
I like chicken too.
Yeah.
But she actually doesn't like meat. She doesn't eat meat. What do you like to eat? Lights? Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, you're being silly now. Hey Prana, how old are you? How old are you? Not
Let's continue.
Okay, I'll continue.
What was it in Mexico? I need to know.
What was the food?
What was it in Mexico?
I don't remember what food it was specifically. I think it was a pizza. Like I ate a pizza and the tomato sauce was not good or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what we.
And then we had a pizza.
It was just some.
It was some kind of food poisoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it did something that made like a gassy effect in my stomach. I had burping and just like horrible for 3 days. Like I was not hungry and my body was just like clearing everything.
I can say that the biggest issue is relative around the world is that a lot of people let themselves eat cheap consumer packaged products that have like no good energy, no love put into it,
Slow down.
And it doesn't really matter. It's not like a particular food from a particular country. I notice it throughout all countries.
want a
Just
wipe?
cheap, fried, oiled foods found in packaging, cheap stuff in stores, and we just kind of avoid them. We've come to the point now where we don't mind if we have to be a little bit impolite and decline a person's offering if they want to offer us some sort of like cheap fried foods. It's like, sorry, like we just don't eat that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it'll turn your insides inside out.
Yeah. But in this case, it didn't feel like it was like a poor quality food. It was pizza, which isn't always the best food for you, but I don't know.
It's kind of funny, like, this wasn't on this journey, but in Japan, I was in Japan and they gave me some sea urchin. And that was my first time I tried it, really disgusting. But then the second time I tried it after experiencing the world and opening up my mind and having a lot more experiences with different foods. And I actually liked it a little bit more. But when I first had it, it was absolutely disgusting. And they were understanding. They're like, yeah, only real Japanese people like sea urchin or something like that. It was like a rite of passage or something like that.
In Africa, a very common food was, they called it a different thing in every country, but like chima or something like that. They would take corn powder and mix it with water and boil it. Like, you know, mashed potatoes? So,
Had the consistency of mashed potatoes.
ugali, yes, that too.
Yeah.
In South Africa, they called it nshima, and then ugali, like a little, more in Tanzania, they call it ugali, I think.
Yeah, I was in.
And it's like a mashed potato, you would think, but it's not. It's corn powder. And I didn't like that so much. I tried it once.
I had it one time, and it was mixed with a bunch of other foods that they had. So
Yeah.
you would eat that with the other foods,
With
and then it
other-
was much better. But by itself,
Yeah,
Not
it
very
doesn't.
good.
It didn't feel like it had any nutritional value.
yeah.
That's
just
to me.
heavy
It just
starch.
felt like something to make your stomach feel like it's full, but it's
Yeah.
not actually doing anything.
You're not getting
for
much
you.
nutrition.
You're
out
not
of it.
getting nutrition from that. So I think that a lot of places in Africa where the kids are only eating that ugali, but they're not eating like what they should be eating to grow healthy bones and stuff. That's when you see like the like obesity in Africa or kids that are malnourished is because they're just eating that.
So,
That's-
moving on to
Yeah.
once again to Abuleed and so many other people. How do we afford this?
Yeah.
We told you guys the round big answer that can be applicable towards many different things. But for us personally, it waxes and wanes as to what brings us in the most amount of income. But currently, our top two is content creation. We've gotten so good at our video content creation that people will pay us good money for it, and our fire dancing performances. So those are number 1 and number 2.
And private students.
Number 3 is private students. That used to be number 1 for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I would get a private student that I'd meet once a week online. They would pay top dollar, and that would bring in enough income.
And then fire shows second.
And then fire shows and content creation second. But once the fire shows and content started to get better and better, people would want to pay for that
Yeah.
more and more. And then the private students went down. We also do crowdfunding a little bit. We have a Patreon
Just
account.
a little bit.
So crowdfunding and donations would be like the 4th highest, because sometimes people just want to support you and they'll just give you money. It's
Yeah.
crazy. You just give them a platform to give you money on, and people will give you money.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We don't rely on that. We only make like $150 a month in our
It's less than
crowdfunding
that. It's less than
platform. Yeah. But so right now it's mostly just video. And what we want to do though is we want to keep establishing ourselves in like a few different niches. So we make a little bit of passive income from YouTube. We're professional YouTubers, and we developed a channel that makes a little bit of income coming in. But word to the wise and recognize making money off of social media and stuff is not like what it used to be. It's really, really hard to make money with a YouTube channel. You know, like we worked our asses off for 2.5 years. And a 3-person team, Catherine and I, and the owner of a business, and it's making like maybe $35-40 a month. That's split between the people who put it on, so it's like
It's
nothing.
not enough to live on.
It's not enough to live
It's
on.
a lot of work for not a lot.
But the knowledge of how to make videos and how to use YouTube, how to use Instagram, how to use Facebook, that is what's valuable to
Yeah.
people who don't know how to use it at all or don't know how to make videos. So that's how we afford doing this. That, and a lot of people will just give you stuff. There's a lot of stuff around the world. So for the most part, you don't need stuff. Like Catherine and I find ways of acquiring stuff. You know, like people have smartphones and they have computers. You manifest the mechanics. That's what we really need most of all, is like good mechanics, you know, to take care of our truck, because we
Keep
invest.
fixing things.
The truck is what enables us to do this. So as long as our truck is running, fuel doesn't cost too much, you know, stuff is easy enough to come by. We mostly just invest ourselves in high quality parts for our truck,
Yeah.
and then we also invest a lot in our food, because if the truck is feeling good and we're feeling good, the rest is a cakewalk. The rest
Yeah.
is easy.
I think that we kind of covered everyone's questions.
Yeah, and that
If anyone
basic-
else has any more,
And anything else that came up while we were talking that you guys want to know about? Because we're kind of wrapping this up, but we're happy to.
About the food nutrition, how you managed that for years? You said you invest a lot in it.
yeah.
What's your experience about like how you invest? What is changing between time and time?
So it's pretty cool because our bodies are adapting, we're evolving, and so we grow up in certain cultures, and our genetics naturally are inclined to eat certain foods because we all grew up and our families grew up in certain parts of the world where certain foods were available. Now with traveling and the ease of importing and exporting different products, we can get so many different types of foods. What Catherine and I actually tend to do is we go to local markets and we look around and talk with the people and look at the products. From the intuitive training, what you'll notice is some people and some products will stand out to you more than others. Sometimes expectedly, sometimes unexpectedly. When you consume those foods and that energy, that is the best diet for you, for who you are and what you're going through. Your intuition or your natural senses will be drawn to the foods that you need or that your body really wants. And it's just a matter about learning about how to look out for that rather than what we usually do, which is kind of like tone off and go with whatever we're craving or whatever we're used to eating. Maybe your body doesn't actually need that stuff. So Catherine and I do regular fasting. We fast, intermittent fasting, and then twice a month we'll fast for like a whole day or day and a half or maybe even 2 days, so that we learn how to not be pulled by our hunger pains. We can be comfortable, not being fed, so that we lose our cravings towards certain foods that we don't actually need and wait it out for the foods that we actually do or that come to us.
Yeah.
And then we also try a bunch of like new things that we haven't tried before and see how our bodies respond to it. We won't try things once, but we'll try them twice or 3 times and study the effects. How does it make me feel physically? How does it make me feel emotionally? What's the process? How's my defecation or what does my stool look like? Once I've consumed it, because we're like we are our own experiment here. Where
Don't touch it.
We're testing ourselves. And,
Okay.
all right. And so to answer your question in short, we go around and if there isn't a market available, we'll do the same thing with the grocery stores. We'll go to the grocery store, we'll look around, and we'll mostly go straight to the produce section. We don't eat very many of the packaged foods anymore. Some things, but not very many.
The way I'll say it is, everywhere you go in the world, there's always some kind of produce. And whether it's imported or from the country or city, there's always an access to onions and chicken and, lettuce and tomatoes. Of course, some places are more abundant in things like avocados and mangoes. But everywhere we go, we have access to, hey,
Oh, let go. No, that's a life plant. Let go.
let go.
Let go. Don't do that. Please don't
Be
do
really,
that.
really gentle.
Yeah, you've been sitting still, now you want to run around.
Now she wants to be crazy. One thing I wanted to touch on.
We've gotten very good at reading food labels very quickly.
Yeah.
So we know what to look at. So if we're shopping at a grocery store or even shopping at a market, we almost always immediately go to that food label, see what's actually inside of the product. We know what to look for, what to look out for, and typically go by the rule, the more that's in it, the less it is good for you. The simpler it is, typically the better it is for you. And then just go by the energy or the color of the food or the thing that you're consuming.
Yeah.
Anything else, you guys? Did we get to your question, Fahad? What are you asking?
It was the same as Prana.
Same as me.
Yeah, talking about Prana.
Yeah.
Were you here for that part of the story?
No.
Were you in the room when we were telling her story?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
We can talk to you about it.
We'll
soon.
share more with you personally.
Thank you guys. If you guys would like to have a look at this book, if you guys would have like a thumb through it, have a look
Please
and
have a
see
look,
what's
look through it.
involved in it. This might bring up more questions for you.
It's 120 pages, 10 chapters, and it's a book that you actually write directly into.
It's a
there's-
workbook. No, this is for other people to look at right now.
Yeah. It's a very special book for Prana. There's plenty of books here that you can look at too.
Yeah, let's go check out some of the other books they have upstairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for joining
Yeah,
us,
thank
for
you
being
all.
here, taking the time, your attention. This is a lot. Thank you.
This is big for us.
Do you have copies of these books?
Right now we have this one.
We have this one because we had to schedule this. So short notice, we didn't have the time to order some,
Yeah.
but we now have the link of where to order it,
Okay.
and everything is working on it.
It works. So if anyone wants to order a copy, it's pay online, and in the UK, it will be printed automatically and shipped here to Oman.
But you have, as ebook, you can download it directly.
There's no ebook yet.
Yeah, we
No
will
ebook
get an
yet.
ebook. The intention was to get this printed and have you write in it by hand.
Right in the book, yes.
We will make it in ebook format, but we'll want to encourage people to take the ebook somewhere and have it printed.
These sections for you to actually write into the book.
There's a lot of
directly.
different sections.
A lot of sections like this.
This book was designed not just to give people the book
To
smarts
write.
of something,
Right.
but start to develop the streets or experiential smarts to something.
Writing.
So there's going to be activities where you need to do something.
More
and,
writing.
and you will benefit from it even if you don't want to live a lifestyle like us. There's so many different things in here, and just have a thumb through it,
Mhm.
check out some of the things.
Yeah.
Can
It
you,
could.
can you send the link?
Absolutely.
In the group?
Yes.
Yeah.
And for anyone else,
Can I take
if
this really
you want
quick?
to
I want
join the
to
group,
send a link.
You can just scan
Is
the
that
QR code
Please let go.
and you'll get automatically.
Prana, no, it's not a game. It's not a game. Please let go.
Prana, you have your own phone. Do you want it? It has cute things on it.
Oh, I don't want something on this.
Okay.
Can't,
What group is this?
I know, I'm trying to find the group.
The community, just community,
Majaz Community.
in the general chat.
There it
Okay.
is, yeah.
We have it.
Here, I'm sending the link right now.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much for being here.
Thank you for your
Cheers.
time.
Thank you. Yeah. And thank you all. Oh, didn't get to.
Happy Oman National Day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You.
Thank you guys. Thank Oman. Thank everyone. Let's stop this video too.